So Steffensmeier and Allan, in their theory regarding female offending, take a biosocial approach. If you remember, biosocial meant that it recognizes that the biology and social environment both play a role. So they describe how the social environment affects female offending, as do biological traits affect female offending. They point to how gender is organized to explain the gender ratio. So first, they describe how there are these differences in norms of behavior. So girls are taught to care for others, to be subservient of men, to be weak, to be submissive, to attend to their physical appearance, to protect their sexual virtue, right? To be gentle and passive. These are very similar to the traits we've identified regarding femininity. They also identify differences in moral development. So girls are socialized to care. They are socialized to be more concerning about maintaining relationships, and therefore they're less socialized to be independent and competitive. They also identify these differences in social control, something that Adler also discussed, that girls are much more closely monitored. I mean, for those of you who grew up in traditional patriarchal homes, you probably know that you were much more controlled than your brothers if you have a brother who's probably able to go out for longer periods of time. There was less inquiry on his behavior versus your behavior. And so how girls are monitored in the home is very different. Also, misbehavior is sanctioned differently. Girls are much more likely to be punished or get in trouble, while boys' behavior is often attributed to boys will be boys. Then there's differences in motivation. Girls have much more self-control, which isn't surprising given how much more they're closely monitored, if you remember from Garvin and Hershey. And they're less likely to be risk-taking or even risk-seeking because of their high levels of self-control. There's also differences in criminal opportunity. Because girls are much more socially controlled, their criminal opportunities are heavily restricted. Now, there are also biological differences. Physical strength is one of them. Girls tend to be weaker than boys. However, this is not always the case. There are some very strong girls and some very weak boys. But there are certain hormones that influence physical strength. The other significant biological difference is reproduction. If you recall, Chesney Lind identifies reproduction as one of these biological traits that the patriarchal system seeks to control to benefit men. But here, Steffensmeier and Allan describe how, because of their reproduction, they are much more sexually objectified. They are much more confined to the home, which greatly shapes offending patterns. So Steffensmeier and Allan describe how the organization of gender and biological differences affect offending contexts. In other words, it affects where offending takes place, the setting. Is it in the home? Is it in public? The method that is used. Females are much less likely to use a gun. They are also much more likely to engage in prostitution. The victim that is selected, females are more likely to choose people who they know and why they engage in offending. Females are more likely to offend out of revenge or out of utility. And this is very consistent with gender norms. So in a sense, these girls are doing gender. So that is the conclusion of our discussion of gender theories. I look forward to reading your discussion boards regarding ways in which we can effectively address the harms that the social construction of gender has on our boys and girls.